Okay, so our topic for today class will be PAS 40. PAS 40 is the standard that will apply to investment property class. Okay, and as you can see here, the objective of PAS 40 is very straightforward class. It is to prescribe the accounting treatment for investment property and the related disclosure requirements. So if you'll compare this with the other standards class, PAS 40 has perhaps the most straightforward objective. That PAS 40 will provide the accounting treatment for investment property. It's very important class for you to understand first what then is an investment property. Because if you try to look at the scope class, even the scope, it tells you that the standard will be applied in the recognition, measurement, and disclosure of investment property. Okay. But before going to the definition of investment property class, if you'll try to look at the exemption provided here in paragraph 4, it mentions of biological assets and mineral rights and mineral reserves. Okay, and these items are familiar to us already. These are mentioned in PAS 16, and the reason that they are not covered by PAS 40 is because they are governed specifically by another standard. Okay, by PAS 16 and could also be covered by PAS 41. If you've read intangible assets as well, class, you would see that these items are also excluded from the scope of PAS 38 because they are governed by, again, another standard. Okay. So again, very simple. PAS 40 is to be applied for investment property, which leads us to the definition of terms as provided in the standard class. I've underlined here the definition of carrying amount to highlight the fact that this is really the definition that we will keep on encountering for carrying amount moving forward class. Okay, it is the amount for which an asset will be recognized in the statement of financial position. Now going to the definition provided for investment property class, we will break this down because this would be a significant part of our discussion. So investment property is property, land or building, or part of a building, or both, held either by the owner or by the lessee as a right of use asset to earn rentals or for capital appreciation, or both, instead of being used in the production or supply of goods or services, or for administrative purposes, or for the sale in the ordinary course of business. So at this point, class, it's very clear that only two kinds of assets class can be considered as an investment property. It's either land or building. Now, I want you to understand also that this is not the first time we are encountering land or building. Okay, we have encountered land and building in PAS 16. Okay, and I've also mentioned that land and building could also be part of your inventories, which will be covered by PAS 2. So basically, class, the same kind of asset, a land or a building, can be classified in different ways. The same piece of land, the same piece of building can be classified as inventory, can be classified as property, plant, and equipment, can be classified as investment property. Now, what would be the primary consideration in determining as to how they should be classified class? Okay, and the answer would be the purpose for which they are going to be used, the purpose for which they are acquired by the entity. So if the land or building class is held for sale to customers class, then obviously it would not be treated as an investment property, but it will be treated as an inventory. If the land or building is to be used in production, or to be used in the supply of goods or services, then that would not be investment property because that purpose will fall under the purposes of your property, plant, and equipment. So what then is the purpose for which we hold our land and building as an investment property? What use will make a land or building become an investment property? And as contained in the definition class, two possible purposes class, either held for rental or capital appreciation. So if a land or building is held for purposes of earning rentals class, then that land or building will be classified as an investment property. If a land or building is held for capital appreciation, then such property would be considered as an investment property. Okay. So from the name itself, class, it's called investment property. So it suggests that this is a property held for investment. And if we're talking about investment class, the type of income that we expect would mostly be passive income, meaning we do not have to be actively engaged in earning the income from the asset class. By the mere existence of the asset, it is capable of earning profit on its own. That's the main idea behind your investment property. Okay, that's the main reason why we are calling it as an investment, because it allows us to earn passive income. So take note, the same piece of land, the same building class can be classified into different kinds of account. Okay, and the determining factor would be the purpose or the use of the asset. If it's to be held for sale, then inventories. If it's for production or use in the supply of goods or services, then it would be PAS 16. If it is used to earn rentals or for capital appreciation, then that would be investment property. If the concept of capital appreciation class is not clear to you, it's basically just expecting to earn from the property from the expected growth or increase in the value. No active no active no active duty on your part to do anything, no required business activity. You are just expecting to earn from this property from the increase in the value that you would expect that will eventually happen. Okay, this would be very understandable for land class. Even without doing anything to the land class, just by holding on to it class, the value of the land is expected to increase. And if you only bought it for 100,000 before, after 20 years, if it now becomes worth 2 million, then you've essentially earned for yourself 1,900,000. And if you've held the land for that purpose only class, then that land would be considered as an investment property. So very simple idea behind investment property class. Property that is held for purposes of investment, for purposes of earning investment income, for purposes of earning an income that is passive, that does not require an active participation on our part. Okay, but an important area of emphasis here, class, would be the seemingly overlapping definition provided in PAS 16. Because when you go back to PAS 16 class, as part of the definition of your property, plant, and equipment, it includes properties that are held for rentals to others class. Okay, so it's possible for an item that is held for rental class to be classified as PPE. But here we are in PAS 40 saying that if it is held for rental or held for capital appreciation or both, then that asset would be classified as an investment property. Now, how do we reconcile the seemingly overlapping provisions in PPE and investment property, the provisions in PAS 16 and PAS 40? Okay, so for PAS 40 class, PAS 40 limits the coverage to land and building. So very clear here that machineries, equipment, vehicles class, even if they are to be held for rental, will not be considered as investment property. So if you have a vehicle class, if you have a machinery, if you have an equipment that is held for rental, how then are you going to classify it class? Can it be considered as an investment property? No, because investment property is limited to land or building. Okay? But how then are we going to classify the machineries and equipment that are held for rental? It would be classified as a property, plant, and equipment class, basis the definition provided by PAS 16 for PPE. Okay? Take note that the definition for property, plant, and equipment allows for the classification of certain assets that are held for rental to be PPE. Okay, so there may be an overlap class, but it can be harmonized by stating that if it's a land or building that is held for rental, then that is investment property. If it is a machinery or equipment class, then that would be property, plant, and equipment. Okay. So please take note of that class. That would be a common question that will be asked. And many students would get it wrong because the moment they see it is held for rental, some students would jump to the conclusion that automatically it is part of your investment property. Never forget that investment property is limited only to land or building class. Okay, please not forget that investment property is limited only to the land or building. And let that be our first takeaway for today. Okay, that investment property is limited only to land or building, and the purpose for which it is being held is either to earn rental or for capital appreciation. Okay, and please do not forget na lang po the phrase or both class. Okay, I rarely add or both because I presume it's understandable that as long as it's either rental or capital appreciation, then investment property. How much more if both are present? Okay.